Hi, true crime fans. We're going live because my editor is out of town. And so things are I don't know if you can read this, but things are pretty spooky around here. All right, I have got a lot of case updates. I will try to get through most of them. Depends on how long this goes. I will put it on replay, so hopefully we can save it all and you can just watch it like a regular episode. I don't know why I'm talking like this. Oh, somebody said, I like your hand motions. I talk with my hands and I can't say I'm Italian or anything. Here you can see a little bit of the scape here behind me. We have so it's my true crime grapevine. Hi. Sorry, I just jumped right in there without saying even who we are. Um, I am Patty Lee, your dyslexic detective. I am an armchair detective. I'm not really a detective. I am a psychologist by trade, but I love true crime, and I am ABD on my doctoral work in educational psychology, which is about typical cognition development and human development and motivations. ABD means all but dissertation. During the pandemic, I don't know. And all I did was watch true crime. So I figured I will retell you with citations, like a good psychologist, um, all of the true crime that I listen to all week because not everybody has hours upon hours. So if you like at least every 7 to 10 days getting an update on everything that's happening in true crime, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. It's free. Join us. It is usually a couple hours to retell you everything that's been happening. So it's a great thing to do while you're doing the dishes or cleaning the house or taking a long trip or trying to fall asleep at night. Maybe it's good for your insomnia. All right. So again, somebody said, I like your hand motions. Now I'm overly conscious about it, but I do. I talk with my hands. We usually pair something. We've been doing hashtag sober October thanks to a suggestion by another YouTuber, one of my main squeeze, there's the dyslexia, main squeeze sources, Melvin on Ickidmel. Anyways, so we're still doing non-alcoholic pairings. This is cinnamon coffee. It has some oat milk because there was no real whole milk. I don't know. It's one of those weird end of pandemic still. Like I don't know why the dairy stuff at my local store doesn't carry stuff, but mm, yes, very good. Uh, I like everything too sweet. So we're pairing this episode. It's episode 33. It is covering October 18th through today, October 27th. I'm going to try to get on there's a lot of trials going on. That's the thing that's going to slow me down. So let's start with just true crime case updates. I like to do it in the order of cases where the crime has just been discovered and we're in the investigation phase. Then I'll go on to if anybody's been hooked and booked, where we have arrests, and then we're getting more into like the adjudication of the trial, pre-trial. A lot of our cases are hung up in the pre-trial phase. And then we have a couple trials and a couple of actual culmination, the ending of trials. So there's a lot going on in the true crime world. And it's right before, I don't know if you can see, it says boo, right before Halloween. So I tried to, if you don't celebrate due to your feelings about Halloween, I understand. I like just as an old kindergarten teacher, I like holidays. Any holiday. I really do. I love them. All right. Our cases that we're going to cover. So we have the Cairo Jordan case, which I covered in my 15th episode. And that was back in, right. I think my episode was in, I covered it in May, but it happened in April. But my 15th episode, we talked about Cairo's case, but we didn't know who he was. He was just a little lost boy found in a suitcase in Indiana. There's been lots of things that have been happening. So it's 6 months old. It kind of gives you an idea of how long investigations take. Everybody wants we all have an idea. Speaking of like the next case, Quentin Simon, the little 20-month-old from South Carolina near Savannah, we all can see like, hey, we know who did it. Just arrest the person. Let's get going, put them in jail. And things, unfortunately, to protect people who, look guilty but aren't, which we could all be that person, we want our system to work fairly, but it's hard when it seems obvious. Um, so we will see in these cases how long it takes. So case two will be Quentin Simon's case. The third case, another case that took a huge amount of time to deal with, is the Adam Montgomery. He has been arrested for his daughter's unaliving, as we say on YouTube, to be YouTube friendly, but the big M, which occurred in 2019, but she wasn't reported missing until her mom got clean and got her, started looking for her, and then had to go through numerous hoops to get any attention. And we just have been talking about this for about over a year now, but it happened in 2019. Um, so another missing child, kind of like our Quentin and our Cairo. We're going to review the Debbie Collier update to the investigation and some uh, interweb. I don't I'm not sure how it started, but there's been a lot of like, "Ooh, we think it's this, we think it's that." And it got a lot of traction. And we're going to talk about what's really seeming to go on. Again, still in the investigation phase, so we don't know for sure. We're going to discuss, there's been a little blip of information about the Courtney Clenny case, which was the Miami, Florida case, the OnlyFans model. Got a little update on her, or at least what her defense is putting out as a defense. Like they're using the media, as is common, right? The court cases the court cases that are still going on are, we have the big Wagner case that's going on. That I I'll discuss it a little bit. That's crazy. We also, in pre-trial, there's a lot of stuff going on with the Ethan Crumbly case that was close to me, and it's in southeastern Michigan. He was a school shooter. He's pled, so that's good. So we have a sort of culmination to that one. Murdaugh. Alec Murdaugh. There's so much always going on with the Alec Murdaugh case. We will get into that. Okay. And then we have sentencing in the Kristen Smart case, sentencing in the Nicholas Cruz in Florida case. Kristen Smart was an old, unsolved homicide from California, which podcasters or a podcast really helped gain more traction and attention and sort of reignited the investigation. And there was an arrest, and now there's been somebody's been um, sentenced, found guilty. There's been a conviction. Conviction was, see, sometimes with everybody, but especially with dyslexia, the word. It's right there. You can see what you mean to say, but it's like you have to keep talking to get to the word. Sorry about that. Probably why it takes me 2 hours to do a little show for you guys. And hopefully everybody can hear me. I haven't gotten any phone call from my editor out of town to say we can't hear you, so I'm assuming we can. If I can't think that anybody's listening right now live, I'm just doing it live because of the editing process. It's easier to do this. So hopefully it's not just all me with my hands waving and you can't hear anything, because I don't think that'd be very entertaining. Like I said, we're going to find out the Nicholas Cruz, who was a school shooter. We had death penalty sentencing culmination. The jury made a decision on his sentencing, and we'll talk about that. And the Balo stuff, there's something happening right this minute. I'll talk a little bit about what's going on, but it's still up in the air again. So this might have to be extended. I don't know. So let's get into it. Case number one, everybody, if you know the drill, if you know, hashtag if you know, take a sip, whatever you're drinking. And be careful if you're drinking an alcoholic beverage because there's a lot of cases. This is the case of who we now know is Cairo Jordan. Cairo Jordan is a 5-year-old, was a 5-year-old boy, because actually he'd be 6 as of this Monday. He was a 5-year-old boy who we did not know his name. He was found around Salem, Indiana. He was found in a Las Vegas, like one of those hard-sided travel, like airport traveling suitcases that was off the road about 80, 90 yards, I believe. They did say you could sort of see it from the road, but a man, it was not on a road that was traveled much, and it was near Salem, Indiana, way out, very rural. In April, a mushroom hunter, a local man, saw it. He called it into the police, but he was, before he did that, he's like, he reported thinking like, I better look and make sure it's just not closed before I bother the police to come all the way out there. He did open it, and there was in a bag a small African American child that he couldn't really even tell anything about. So after that was April 16th, I believe he was found. We now know, because of the warrant for arrest and the arrest of one of the people, that this was probably done on April 14th as these two women were traveling through the area. So he found the case with the young person inside on April 16th. It was the body was examined. They found out it was a young boy, about 5 years old, of African American descent. No other identification. And after doing a both autopsy and a toxicology report, they said he didn't look to have been he didn't look to have been killed. It looked like he had an electrolyte imbalance and from a gastrointestinal disease. Like he was sick. Basically, what that means in real talk is, I don't know if you've ever been sick with the flu or anything and you've thrown up a lot, but if you throw up too much, your electrolytes, which one of them I know is potassium, if you throw up a lot, they get out of whack and your muscles start clenching uncontrollably, and in your heart's a muscle, right? So it can kill you if you have an electrolyte imbalance. It's very serious. That's why you have to go to the hospital if you've been vomiting or having too much diarrhea. Those are both the things that lead to this electrolyte imbalance and eventually death, because your muscles don't work right and your heart is a muscle, your lungs. So that's what happens. You do have to get emergency treatment, and all they do is they put electrolytes in you through, an IV. So it's this child could have been saved, but it seems like maybe somebody freaked out. And if you would watch my 15th episode, you would see that I considered it, maybe it was a young mom, maybe it was just a frightened parent, maybe a dad, maybe a caretaker. Somebody, though, was afraid. That's what I thought. Like a child got sick, died, and they thought they'd get in trouble, especially because it was rural Indiana. The child was African American, and with a lot of political issues and inflamed feelings going on about race, I thought, well, maybe the person just, got freaked out and did this inappropriate burial and should have called the police. Well, no, that is not what happened. You're not going to believe it. So let me just tell you, they identified the child by identifying the mother. And then once they identified the mother, they could look at the history legally of the family and find out that there was a custody issue with the father. They could alert the father. They found the mother is, I'm not going to say her name right. It's Dejuane, I believe, and you pronounce it Dewan Anderson. So I'm just going to call her D, if that's okay. Sorry. But Ms. Anderson is 37 years old. She was traveling with a 40-year-old woman companion, apparently, and they were seen on video because once their fingerprints were identified, they were identified, then they can get cellular data, then they can track you by your phone. And they knew what time, obviously, when the boy was found, then they had a sort of time of death from the autopsy, and they did find like ring video footage from a neighbor's house and they saw the women in the car in the area. So it all triangulates, works together to be pretty damning evidence. Her friend is Dawn Coleman, who is 40. Dawn Coleman is from Louisiana. Um, Ms. Anderson de Dewan, she was from Atlanta, Georgia, and that's where the father of Cairo still lives. His name is, I know I'm going to say, he is Vincent Jordan. And he said, so the thing is that they're saying it was hard to find Cairo because he wasn't on a missing child's list. Well, he was missing, but with his mother. And what happened was there was a custody issue and they had been going to court, and she just didn't show up for court one day in 2017. And he never saw her since. So what they're reporting is she has been like crisscrossing the country. I don't know if this woman, Dawn, she was friends with before. They're 3 years apart. I don't know. Dawn's from Louisiana. I don't know how they connect, but Dawn has been arrested. They found him by their fingerprints being on the bag in the suitcase. Now you're saying 6 months? It takes a long time to do some of these forensics. We, of course, watch TV. I don't know about you, but I watch a lot of, in my past, especially a lot of crime dramas, and it always, not the real stuff, but I mean like Law and Order stuff, and it always seems like things happen pretty quickly and that tests are done like within a day or two, and that is just simply not how that works. Not only do tests take longer, but they're in a line. There's other people wanting similar testing. So, but it's amazing that they could find the fingerprints off the bag. Again, you think you did something and you didn't. And then your cell phone, that's all they need. Names, dates, cell phone data, it's going to tell the story, and it does. So the other thing is names, dates, cell phone, and social media posts. There, Ikadmel did a whole thing where he showed a post from a woman named Edie Sanders at Trendy News. And she had posted, if you want to go see the part of the scary things that this woman posted, both of them posted, both of these women. And if you listen to enough true crime, you've heard about the Daybell case, and you are going to hear weird, similar language, like children are avatars that demons can hide in, and that apparently his mom thought he was 100-year-old demon, and she said right around the date. Now she was they call them vanity names, which, pseudonyms on Twitter. Not everybody uses their actual legal name, probably because of doxing and all that other weird stuff. Who knows? Twitter's kind of the wild, wild west. So they were posting on Facebook and on Twitter things about under pseudonyms, under vanity names, about demons, about avatars, demons using children as avatars, that they're not really children. Now, we don't know. It doesn't seem like in 2017 when they were having these custody battles over the little boy, she didn't seem nuts. Like it doesn't, the father didn't, there was no claim of anything like that. Her saying that she was living with a demon inside of a child for 5 years and she survived. She wrote to it looked like father, so like a Catholic priest, trying to talk about the need to exorcise the demon out of the child's body. She said she'd been attacked for 5 years, but that doesn't make a lot of sense if she thought that really for 5 years, because why didn't she just go, "Oh, you take this demon kid. Like, I'm not going to fight you for him." So it will be interesting for us to see, when did she meet this Dawn Coleman. Dawn Coleman she was found in the San Francisco area, arrested. She's being extradited, so it could be immediately if she goes willingly, could be 30 days if she fights it. They'll extradite from California to Indiana. I don't know. She's from Louisiana. What part of Louisiana? Was she from the part where there's, like, black magic? It sounds like, I mean, did she influence, did who influenced whom? Again, the child is dead. I guess it doesn't really matter, except for those of us who wanna understand, like, why? And again, when people fall down into these cultish religious ideation, where they need to save the world and there's demons, and it is important, I think, um, to alert other people around that person if you hear this type of thing. That's not okay. I mean, people were seeing on social media, they didn't see the real name, right? But when someone says my 5-year-old is a demon, you might want to just hit that little report button and alert somebody, because by phone, phones can be tracked. I don't know. I always try to say, what can we learn from this? And I think this is just another example of how we need to be very careful when we listen to people who seem to be going off the edge, talking about demons and exorcism. The one thing that was interesting in the complaint or the warrant for her arrest was that they said they exorcised him through blood, and they said use of our blood. Now, maybe the child didn't have the flu. Maybe the child had a gastrointestinal problem from ingesting, I mean, other people's blood. Do you know what I mean? The child threw up and threw up and threw up until his electrolytes were unbalanced and died. It seemed gastrointestinal. They didn't find a toxin, but I don't know if you made a child ingest blood, what that would do, or what organic substances. We know tax screens, they don't do all the most expensive tests for everything. So hopefully, if you watch any of the like Duty Run, and also there's a podcast called Over My Dead Body, Body Bags, Body Bags. That's a great podcast. You will learn that they keep what's called like a stock jar. Barbara Bircher, I believe, on Duty Ron. Go over to at Duty Ron. He is a retired New York police officer, but he has on all these experts, like forensic experts, death investigator experts, CSI type, like real CSI from New York City who's seen a lot experts. Um, and Barbara Butcher is the death investigator, over like 860 some deaths she investigated in the New York area. She's a physician's, I believe, physician's assistant who became a death investigator and was like New York's top one. And she will tell you that we were talking about the Cassie Carly case. They keep a stock jar, hopefully, like in New York, they will. And that has like, they have samples of different parts of the body for different analysis to be happening in the future. They just keep it in stock. And I don't even know if it's an actual jar, but she just said that. And I'm going to take her for her word, because I'm not a doctor, or at least I got close to being a doctor, but not that kind. So we will find out more about this case. I do think it's important to listen when people start talking about demons. When people hear voices, these are things, which reminds us of Brian Laundrie, that we want to attend to and not let other people go off with these people, because they tend to then lead to some unaliving. And then we talk about them on this show, and that doesn't seem great. All right. We are up to case deux, number 2. Drink. This is the Quentin Simon case. And if you're into true crime, you've been following this. I've talked about this in my 32nd, I believe, episode. So Quentin Simon was found, he's not been found yet. Quentin Simon was reported missing by his family. And then right away, there was issues with what the family had told the babysitter, what the babysitter happened. The grandmother apparently was out of town at work, which she shouldn't have been, because she had primary custody that was taken away from her daughter. Daughter had given birth to a third child. So it was really confusing at first because we heard there were 2 boys, and then there was a baby. He was 20 months. Was he the baby? No, there was like a newborn, him, and a 3-year-old. And the neighbor next door, Diana, she took care of the children and got this phone call, "No, he's not coming," which was odd because they had been both boys. Maybe not the baby. She said she had both boys the day before. She had them whether the parents went to work or not. The parent, the father, was the father of the little baby girl, Sky. His name is Danny. He comes into question this week because they were saying somebody took the baby got out, the door was opened, what happened to the baby? Then all of a sudden, the grandmother was blaming the babysitter. You came and stole the baby. And the mother apparently said the baby's dad, and not the infant, not the newborn, but this is Quentin, 20 months, so not quite 2 years old, so still a baby. They were saying the dad, the biological dad, must have come and taken him away. That was mom's first blaming, before grandma then blamed the babysitter. All those people were cleared. The father of the baby left town after being cleared, that they didn't think he had anything to do with it. And then all heck broke loose, and the grandmother was on, her name's Billy Joe. She was on social media saying, my daughter did it. The baby's in a landfill, BOOHOO, hysteria, right? And everybody's freaked out because it seems like the baby is no longer with us. And then soon after, yes, the law enforcement say, we do believe Quentin is no longer among the living, and we are going to be looking in a landfill for him. We know the dumpster so they said he was in the landfill. So did she put him in like the big trash that goes out? Is that considered a dumpster? Or it seems like she may have taken him to a specific dumpster. And I don't know how they know this because they're keeping very quiet on how they know anything. If you listen to Ikadmel, he's the one I've been listening to a lot because he's got a lot of the info from both the regular sources like law enforcement, but he also keeps his ear to the ground. He's located in, I believe, the Miami, Florida area or Southern Florida, but he is very good about his community is large, and he gets a lot of information from people in the area, and people feel comfortable talking to him. He's a good follow. It's at Ikadmel, Ickedmel, Ikadmel. And he's on Twitter, and he's a YouTube channel. He's a great source. And he's pretty respectful, and he hypothesizes, spitballs, whatever we're going to call it. But he's respectful, and he's pretty on the money, and he says when he doesn't know. I mean, he'll say, this is what I've heard. This is what people are saying, but this is what I think. And we don't really know yet. So he's a great follow. Anyway, he's been covering this, and the babysitter still posts a lot on TikTok, and he'll repost that and talk about it, give a little commentary. The big news this past week has been, while the FBI is out at the landfill, and they have to do this, like, grab a bunch of trash and they put it all in a line. They can't use dogs. That was a big issue people are asking about. Why are they not using cadaver dogs at the landfill? Well, because cadaver dogs go off of smell of decomp, and I hate to say it, but like meat. So food gets in the way of like human remains, and so it's not, they aren't very good out there. So they do have a big strategy where they if you go to Duty Run, at Duty Run, he has a YouTube channel. You can also reach him on Twitter at the same thing, at Duty Run, all one word. He had his co-host Ed Wallace talking about how they do these searches. And if you're interested, you can go find it. It's really kind of interesting. They go in a line with this like huge amount, it's like a dump truck full, and they have to go through it, like, I don't know, 20 people in a line and look. And they said, hopefully she used a bag. Like the previous case, if they use a bag, it'll keep everything together. And this, it's kind of, sorry, trigger warning, but if the body is still together. They will probably find bones. It's not going to be like finding a child because he's only, he's teeny tiny. He's a little baby. And I'm sorry. It's really disgusting to think about. But I hope to heck that she went to a dumpster that she put um, poor little Quentin in a bag because that will help them find it. So hopefully, for all I know right now, I'm not watching anything. So maybe they found him. That would be great. Um, okay. So they're still looking in the landfill. Um, they can't use dogs. And oh, so the crazy newest thing. So the mom and the daughter, now they're claiming they were so stressed by protesters outside of their house, they had to get away. They had to. And they went to Tybee Island. Tybee Island is right out, it's a, island off the coast of Savannah. Oh, yes, but they didn't just go to get away. They went out. And now the grandmother, after all this comes out, she's trying to backpedal and go, I mean, and maybe I can't say she isn't truthful because I don't know her. But oh, and then they just had drinks, and oh, her daughter wasn't drinking, but she was drinking, and yeah, she was messed up, but it was only because they were stressed out, and I don't know. There were reports that the daughter was drinking. There is video of them acting crazy, hooping and hollering. Does not look good. I mean, does not look good. So, um, the other thing is, one of the channels was talking about, I think it was Ikadmel, was replaying a Nancy Grace episode talking about this. And when they first went to the home, they got a search warrant for the pool in the backyard. And she said that's unusual because anything outside the house would be considered fair game. It's not, you don't need a warrant. You need a warrant for inside the house. And for them to get a warrant to search the pool, she said, meant that they thought they had like maybe DNA, something in that pool saying this. So now the very latest is the grandmother has been on social media saying, yeah, she thinks it's her hypothesis that he drowned, that her daughter Leilani and the boyfriend, the father of the very newborn, that they were high and they fell asleep and the baby drowned. And that's, I mean, so number one, she's saying that Danny, the father of the baby, then would be complicit and knew about this if so that's a big okay, now he's guilty, I guess, in your eyes. And number two, how the brain works is when you tell a lie, often you use a little bit of the truth and you build around it. Because very hard, nobody really creates something out of absolutely nothing. There's usually a little bit of real life experience in that creation. Ask any fiction writer. So it seems odd that she's saying drowning, and we know that the back door, apparently, according to Leilani's brother, who has like an ADT, thing on his phone that tells him, okay, the door's open, the door's closed. Apparently, the back door where the pool was right out was open. The back door was open between 2 and 5 a.m. the morning that supposedly Quentin went missing, and we know was unalived. So, did he get outside? Was she smoking, doing stuff outside, and then the baby got into the pool and she didn't even notice till way late? I don't know. But here's the thing: the mom, Billy. Hey, Billy Joe. I mean, your plight is real. I understand, but here's the deal: if you're going to make up stories, you better make sure they have some forensic integrity. And a drowning is not a drowning. So, drowning in the bathtub, drowning in a pool. Forensically, those are two very different things, and we will find out about those. Don't lie if you don't know the facts. So, all the facts. I mean, so I think that's going to be a catch right there. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, and we don't know. Maybe she's telling the truth. Percentage wise, I would say that's a low percentage, but yeah. So that's what we know so far about Quentin Simon case. Hopefully they find him. They are still looking out at that landfill. They do know the area because they know what dumpster it was, or they suspect anyways. They say they know, and they do say that they're watching her. So we'll see. Okay, case number 3. Take a drink, everybody. If you didn't need to drink before you started listening to this, I bet you do now. All right, Adam Montgomery. Adam Montgomery is the father of Harmony Montgomery. I've covered a lot of it in the case. I have a whole playlist on it. He has been arrested now for the murder of Harmony. They seem to have found evidence, and it also seems that Kayla, his ex-wife, has now is turning state's evidence because they have I mean, it's pretty clear through the affidavit. They pretty much feel like they know what he did to her around December of 2019. It seems from probably Kayla's uh, testimony, and we also know his uncle said that he had told him that he hit her, but apparently the theory is that he hit her with a closed fist over and over again and basically beat her to death. Nice guy. So we'll hear more about that, but it's good to know finally that he has been arrested for the murder, and along with everything else in his past that should put him away. Okay. Um Case number 4. It was a quick update, sorry. Debbie Collier case. This is still it's in such the investigative phase that nobody's even claiming, although it was claimed that this is a homicide, but now people are backpedaling. So let me catch you up on this. So Debbie Collier was the 59-year-old woman from not Macon, Georgia. Where was she from? Oh, Athens, Georgia. She was from Athens, Georgia. Go Bulldogs. In fact, she was dressed in Bulldog gear the Saturday that she went missing. Now, people are saying, and this is also in my playlist, if you want to catch up on the original tale of, the telling of what this was about. But people are saying she unalived herself. Let's put it that way to be YouTube friendly for the words. The big ass, the big shuffling off of your mortal coil of your own volition. I don't buy it. And I was so glad to see police off the cuff, Bill Cannon, another good source. He also does not buy it. I don't buy it because as a psychologist, I do know that people, when they want to do the big ass, and there's certain things we know that people do. There's like patterns, especially for women. And it is, number one, not even clear how she was unalived. There was a full casing next to her, but it wasn't shot. There was no mention of a gunshot on the exterior examination, as far as we know. We do not have her autopsy yet. So, but she was found unclothed, burned on her abdomen off the side of a road an hour from her house after having gone shopping. And because the shopping stuff was there, people like, I don't know if it was law enforcement that floated the idea that it was of her own volition or what, but none of this, they said right from the beginning that it was, it appeared targeted and personal. So I don't think that's how we typically describe a self unaliving. And the internet just grabbed onto this, and one channel that seems to be pretty, I'm not going to say because I don't agree with it and I don't want to put out any negativity, but they're like, oh yep, I told you it's probably the big ass from the beginning, I told you. And I'm like, okay, no, I don't see it. She has no ties to that area. She had no personal reason to do that, and she got naked beforehand. None of that makes sense. Why? And why would what? She got naked and tried to burn herself on her abdomen after, I don't know what. Sorry. There's going to be a little, I have to take a bit of a break. Sorry. Okay. See, that's what happens when you're doing a live without your editor. I'm back. Okay, so yeah, Debbie Collier, I don't believe it was. I don't know. If if you're gonna like and subscribe, hey, that's great. But put a comment, let me know. Do you think it is even a possibility? I just don't see why she would do that. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, even if she were just found, I mean, if she would have walked off taking a bottle of pills, there'd be the pill bottle next to her, or she would have bought a bottle of sleeping pills, or her purse would have been there. Oh, also, do you guys remember her credit cards were found supposedly at home, at least in the 911 call? That's what the husband says. No, her purse is here. And I know, like, I take different purses, but I do take my wallet. And in the video of her at that dollar store an hour away from her house, she bought things with her credit cards. So, what is the deal? You're going to hear a little buzzing. Sorry, I had to take my phone off the hook because I didn't want to be interrupted. So I just don't. I personally don't think that that is explains any of that. Also, um, so she had her credit cards supposedly at home. So how would they get back? Um, she was dressed in her game day gear. So why was she dressed in game day gear if she was just going to go unalive herself during the game or right before the game? It doesn't make sense. Like people usually do that at home. They do that in the comfort. Like, I mean, that's not a thing, especially for women. And there was no clear thing that they even saw. So I don't think that was the case. Okay, so that was the Debbie Collier case. All right, that little buzzing is going to drive me bananas. So everybody, take a sip. I will be right back. Oh my Lord, help me, please. Okay, back again. Let's see what interruption we can have next on this live. The OnlyFans update. That is, where were we? One, two, three, four, four. I'm gonna take a sip. I really wish I would have made it Irish. Again, here's my I always suggest a little cinnamon to make things Irish in the fall. But it is hashtag sober October for me, so only coffee. So the update on the Courtney Clenny case. She's the OnlyFans model. There was a unaliving, the big M, in her was it called Presidio One? It was a big fancy condo on the beach in Miami, Florida. And her boyfriend, Christian, was unalived through with a knife wound right here and it hit just like the big artery. Like he could have hit if she would have hit anywhere else. It said it was a downward motion, and so she's tiny, he's big. It seems like she had to be very close. She said she threw it from 10 feet away. We do know he went out, that they got up that morning. I don't know if he took the dogs, but he went and got sandwiches, and when she came back there was an altercation and this happened, and then he was unalived. Now, well, let me go back. And we also saw then the police released video of her going insane in the elevator. They had a very contentious relationship, apparently, and she was a bit of a hothead, especially when she drank, because she finding warrants in California, Las Vegas, Texas, and then now she's, you know, being prosecuted in Florida. And in all those cases, it involved alcohol and rage. So that's just the historical background. I'm not saying she is presumed guilty until, she's found not so by a jury of her peers. But her lawyers now have released a tape that happened a day or two before the uh, incident. And I don't know if it was body cam footage, but the officer came and she was saying, this my ex-boyfriend, he's in my apartment, I'm afraid of him, he's, I think, sleeping near where the trash was. Okay, so the thing was, according to their friends and according to everything that's been documented thus far, they broke up, they got together, they broke up, they got together. Of course, her defense team wants to put out this thing of, see, he wasn't even supposed to be there, even though she first told a different story, which is number one problem when you tell different stories at different times, right? It's never a good idea. Um, in Florida, there is a castle law or a stand your grounds law. And so if she's saying, oh, he didn't even belong in here and I was just defending myself, then you're allowed to unalive somebody if they're like, not supposed to be even in your property and they like get into your house. I think that's what they're going for. Given her background, given the story doesn't match the first story, I don't know if that's going to fly. Um, so that's our fourth. That's just a real small little update, but it did happen. And I wanted to keep you guys abreast of what was going on. We are to the fifth case. Okay, so the fifth case starts the trials. Okay. The first trial, I think I spoke of it one other time. There is a trial of in Washtenaw, Wisconsin. There was last November, at the end of November, I think it was the 27th or 28th, a holiday, like a Christmas holiday parade. And this man, Daniel Brooks, had an altercation with his ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, and uh, he raced away from her. She like jumped. They were in a park talking in his car, I believe. She got out of the car and got away from him. He then angrily drove down through the streets, through barricades. It's on videotape, into a parade, through, not into, just through the parade route. He killed 6 people, um, injured like over 60, I believe. I mean, it was insane. That was just the crime. The trial, at first he was represented by legal defense people. And then right before the trial started, he said, no, I'm going to represent myself, which is called being pro se. The thing about being pro se is you can't go back on appeal later and say that you had ineffective counsel. No, you are what you are. So it is, it's not really a good idea, especially during a murder case. I watched a large portion of the trial at different points because I personally found it so frustrating because um now they said he's not crazy, he's not incompetent legally. He has a personality disorder. I don't know what he has, but he isn't right. And I think at the time of the accident, even he wasn't taking his medication. He had tried to run over that girlfriend, wife, ex, whatever. He had tried to run her over not long before that, was out on a bail thing. It was like he was I'm so confused why he wasn't kept in jail after he tried to run her over in early November. And then there's this whole big controversy. Anyways, he was found guilty of all the crime, but in the court, you guys, he was removed all the time for saying crazy stuff. He would take off his clothes. He said, "Don't call me by my name." It was so hard. The judge was so patient, and she made sure that she legally put everything on the record and made sure that he presented his case. She gave him so many. It's so frustrating to watch, but she protected the fact that he had every opportunity to do exactly what he wanted. And so he has, I don't, somebody saying, well, he'll try to appeal. I don't think he can appeal because he represented himself and she covered all the bases. There is no grounds for appeal. So, and he wasn't crazy when he got his verdict of guilties. He just did that. So, it, Emily D. Baker covered it. I believe Legal Bites on YouTube covered it, which is Alita. I watched them cover the Johnny Depp trial. They do pop culture trials. Also, Iked Mel covered some of it. It's just very frustrating to watch. I would look for highlights and not waste my time. I think, of course, the Law and Crime Channel and I believe the Court TV covered it every day. So if you search for Dale Brooks, Washtenaw, Wisconsin parade trial, you will find it and enjoy. I'm just glad that he was found guilty and that it's over because it was very frustrating to watch somebody constantly interrupt the judge and try to use legalese, and he had no idea what he was saying, but it was very the judge, I'm telling you, um she should be granted sainthood. All right. Um I am also going to tell you I'm going to tell you about these two cases that involve school shooters. We're going to call this case 6. Um you're going to have to, if you have a double shot, I drink it now. School shooting is really sad. And unfortunately, the shooters tend to be also other young people, and they tend to have very sad and horrible stories. And if you've listened to my channel before, you've heard me say we're all connected. And there aren't any throwaway people, because when you decide that people, like, we don't care about them, they're screwed up, who cares? Eventually it gets to somebody we do care about, because when you throw away people, they end up harming others. And that's just my personal opinion as a psychologist and as a mom and as a human. I don't know. I I it's a I always think, what can we learn from this? And the thing is, we have to be very careful about who raises kids, and when we see red flags, what we can do. We defunded mental hospitals in the 80s, and way before that, we got rid of orphanages due to the foster care system, which I think we could do a better job having large orphanages, because at least it could be institutional in a way that was regulated. Because let's just talk about one child who was in the foster care system and then adopted. His name was Nicholas Cruz in Florida. And he did plead guilty to the school shooting. He's the Parkland shooter. And I think he had just graduated the year before Parkland. But this was the sentencing trial, and everybody was so angry that he didn't get the death sentence. So he had pled guilty, and so the only trial was for his sentencing. Was it going to be life imprisonment, or was it going to be the death penalty? And this is in Florida. And it was really confusing because I believe he killed 17 people, which is horrible. And we can all talk about, who wants to have automatic weapons, or even semi-automatic or not, but AK whatever number, they tend to do a lot of damage. And for some reason, 18-year-olds can buy them, but you have to be older to get different type. It's very strange about the laws, personally, I think. But that's just what that is. So he did do a lot of damage, and he did say he took responsibility for that. Now, people are angry because they wanted him to pay the highest penalty. But part of when you have the death penalty on board, and we've talked about this a lot with the Lori Vallow case recently, is mitigation. And what mitigation is, it's like a whole second part of a trial. And that's why John Pryor in the Chad Daybell case wants to, have more time, because he's got the case of the actual unaliving of all the people. And then they have to also start working on mitigation phase, which is, if they are found guilty, you start saying, let's not give them the death penalty. There's these mitigating factors. And what mitigating means are factors that work to explain why it happened, and so that the person is not as culpable and shouldn't be put to death. That's what mitigating is, mitigating factors. So in the Nicholas Cruz case, he was a child who, I believe, his biological mom drank. So he was born with fetal alcohol syndrome. He was fostered, and I believe he was adopted by the foster family. And that mom abused him physically and psychologically, it appears. His adopted sister had a lot to say about it. And he had all kind, like, the thing is, to me, it seems like he never got a break. And I don't know what else caused him to do what he did, but he was thrown away by society, and then it was, you know, and then that's what throwaway people end up doing. They end up hurting Like, I mean, 17 kids. Well, I think a couple were teachers, but I mean, human beings. And it was horrible. So everybody, like, so the thing was, the mitigation were psychologists and people who came in to explain what happened to him his whole life and what created this sort of like monster. And when they read the verdicts, it was confusing because they read 17 times. So they read for each name of each person. And basically, there was at least one or two people that would not vote for the death penalty, which meant he got life. There were at least a few people who were convinced that this kid never had a shot. And yes, he did these horrible things. And yes, he should always be kept in jail, but he shouldn't be killed because there were mitigating factors, which surprised me in Florida because I always think of Florida as a pretty like Texas, like, too bad for you. We don't really care. Anyways, although, Casey Anthony got off. So it's interesting to me. And I'm kind of glad because I think we should study him. I think psychologists, like, how do we not do this in the future? How did he get this way? And you can't do that if you automatically just take him off the earth, because then we don't know. So it would be interesting, and it will be interesting. He is going to have life in prison. Okay, speaking of school shooters and ones that plead. So Ethan Crumley, he last around November, I believe, right? It was November 30th of 2021. Another school shooting. It was in Oxford, Michigan, so very close to me. He 3 days ago on Monday, he pled guilty to the unaliving of 4 people in his school. And in his pleading, he admitted that the gun was not locked up. Why does that matter? Well, in the Ethan Crumley case, 2 things I want to bring up. One, there was lots of evidence through text messaging that he thought there were demons in his house. Again, we have this unstable psychological issue of hallucinating and feeling like somebody's telling you to do something bad type of. I don't know exactly what happened with him, but I mean, he thought there were demons in his house. He thought his house was haunted. Um, he had issues, like mental issues. He was pleading with his mom to please come home. It's so pitiful. Um, uh, then his parents said, so his parents knew all this, and then they went and bought him a weapon. When they were called to the school saying, Ethan is drawing these things. He looks like he looked like it was like classic school shooter writing, like he was drawing pictures of people with blood and blah blah blah. Then he tried to erase it. Previously, he'd been looking up ammunition. They had put on social media that they got him this gun for Christmas. Again, this is November 30th. So the parents were indicted, and their lawyer said they were going to come in, and they ran. I don't know if you remember this last year. They ran away. They ran to Detroit. They hid out in a friend's like basement studio. I don't know if they were trying to get to Windsor out of the country, but then they were brought back, and their son was already in jail, and he had a public defender, I believe, by this point, but they got a real lawyer for them. But they are indicted for basically involuntary manslaughter. But the dad, right after he heard there was a school shooting, he was like, "Oh, he called the police and I went to look and find my gun, but my kid must have taken it out. I don't know. It was locked up." So the big point of Ethan Crumley's pleading, number one, he's now not going to put the victims through a horrendous trial where they have to hear everything. But number two, he admitted that gun was not locked up. So his parents' case just got a whole lot worse. So again, what can we learn from this? Hallucinations, demons. Again, if you hear people talking about that, please alert others to get them help. Alert others. And don't buy him guns. Don't buy him guns. What they say, he was Thought he was obsessed by something. I don't know. It's really sad. All right. That was 2 cases for our 6th case. Now, I have a few. Case number, here, let me do it for you. Case number 7 is verdicts. Okay, so the verdicts that we have in the past 10 days to 2 weeks. Kristen Smart case. She was a co-ed who was unalived. They thought she disappeared 26 years ago. And the last person to see her was Paul Flores. He's now 45. Mr. Flores said he walked her back to her dorm, and he doesn't know what happened. And even at the time, like a cadaver dog hit on his room, his side of the room at school, his bed, smelling decon. I mean, it was around Memorial Day of that year. Anyway, 1996 at Cal Poly San. I can't say that word. San Luis Obsida? No. Oh, so dyslexic. Anyways, out in California at a Cal Poly State school was where this all happened in 1996. So now they had put Paul and his father on trial. I'm hoping I'm not mixing up their names. For some reason, I want the dad's name. I don't think it's Paul, but anyways, the kid back in the day, the one who like walked her home, he was found guilty. There was a podcast called, what was it called? I'll put it in the description after this goes up. But the podcast was about the Kristen Smart case. And this podcaster like went all through, it was like a documentary about what they thought had happened, and that there had been some investigations into there was like, it looked like something had been under the father's porch, and they thought he had helped. See, that was never proven because they still don't have a body, but he has been found guilty. So on December 9th at 9 a.m., there will be a sentencing hearing, and he's up for 25 years to life. So he's already 45. So even though he had all these years, I don't think he had years being at peace, though, because it sounds pretty awful and horrendous. All right. So that was the Kristen Smart trial. And the last 2 cases is Alec Murdaugh. Let's do, that's number 8, right? Number 8. Here we go. Alec Murdaugh. What's up with Alec? Well, his lawyers, his lawyer's a state senator as well, Dick Carputian. They're blaming Cousin Eddie again. They've got a whole concocted story that Cousin Eddie, he didn't, they said in a filing that they wanted all of the information related to Cousin Eddie's, Eddie Smith, Curtis Smith, but he's Eddie to them. They wanted his lie detector test. Now, if you're a true crime fan, maybe you don't know, but I'll tell you, lie detectors are not admissible in court. Therefore, they're not really evidence. Anyways, because it was filmed, and they say that from the film, they can see that he didn't pass questions about, was he there when Paul was shot? Was he there when Maggie was shot? And did he know did he know who did it? So shootings about Maggie, Paul, and if he was there, and were you there? They said in a filing, Alec's team said that he failed those 3 questions. They wanted all of that data about that. They want Eddie's DNA, because this is going to trial now in January, I believe, 29th. And so they wrote the motion about, we want this, we want all that stuff about Eddie, we want Eddie's DNA. We want, let's see, what else did they want? Well, let me just tell you what they said in the filing. They said that Eddie was there because Eddie told somebody. So again, this is all, I think this would fall under hearsay, but it's just a filing that they're saying that Eddie was there, that Eddie had told them that he saw Paul go after Maggie and an unnamed groundskeeper, because that's convenient, right? We don't know anybody's name. Oh, that Maggie was having an affair, and Paul, the son, came out and was so ticked off that his mom was cheating that he had a gun, and the groundskeeper shot Paul after Paul shot Maggie. First, Paul shoots Maggie, and then the groundkeeper shoots Paul with the gun that he brought outside. Okay, number one, do you remember what I said about when people lie? Just from cognition, we know that you can't make something out of whole cloth. If Eddie did say anything like that, um, I do believe that Alex knows what happened. And I do think Alex is using a little bit of the truth, because I think Alex knows Eddie was there, because I think Alex had Eddie come there because that's who I think was going to kill Maggie. There supposedly is um, some video somewhere of Alex walking with Maggie and maybe Paul down by the, was it? Hold on a second. There was video of, let me read this right. They had video of, the state says, hold on. Alex walking with Maggie. I don't know if Paul was also walking there too. Oh, here it is. Prosecutors, um, as part of their like evidence, that there's a cell phone video of Murdaugh, Maggie, and Paul cell phone. Now think, whose cell phone could have, maybe Eddie's? Of Maggie and Paul and Murdoch all walking near the dog kennels at 8:44 p.m. the night the killing occurred. And the cell phone data indicates that Alex left then at 9:06. And he made the call at 10:06, an hour later. So Alex said he was visiting with his father at the time. But whose cell phone would be there? Eddie's. So I think somehow Eddie was really there, and that's why he would fail those questions. And that's why Alex knows for sure he would fail it. And he's going to try to pin this all on Eddie. But if there's cell phone video from Eddie with Paul, Maggie, and Alex walking at 8:44. So, yeah. I always thought maybe Paul was an accident. So I would be interesting, and that it would be very, very interesting in that cell phone data. So on October 20th, the judge denied all the Murdaugh's motions for the discovery of the uh, lie detector test. But the DNA stuff, he did say, so yes, that probably needs to be taken, because that is a viable thing. They want to know whose DNA was there, and if we don't have Eddie Smith's, we can't say he wasn't. So that seems to be that it will be part of the discovery. So everything else, though, Murdaugh doesn't get anything. There are 15 pieces of evidence. Not all of them have been handed to Alex's team. Harpootlian wants them. Of course he does. And Waters, the state attorney, said, yes, we are getting them everything. This is kind of the problem. What's the other case? When you want to go to trial for a speedy trial, like what Lori Vallow did, they don't have all the testing done. They can't give you discovery until it's like discovered all the way. So they said, yes, we haven't given them everything because we don't have it all finished. It will be there as soon as possible. Again, January 23rd. January 23rd is when Alex is set to go to trial. I might try to go down there. I don't know. It's an hour away from where I could stay. So we'll see if it really goes. We'll see. And on October 22nd, the defense attorneys claimed that there was unknown DNA found under Murdaugh's wife, Maggie's fingernails. And yeah, that it's, they think it's Eddie, cousin Eddie. I mean, I think Alex knows cousin Eddie was there because he was there with Alec. I think that's probably whose cell phone it was. Because who else's cell phone would it be? If you have any ideas, why don't you hit like and subscribe? That would be great. And also tell me what you think. Whose cell phone data saw Alec, Maggie, and Paul walking near the dog kennels at 8:44? Maybe cousin Eddie isn't so stupid that if Alex is hiring him to do that kind of stuff, maybe he was going to take care of it himself, right? All right. So, yes, Murdaugh's attorney has has requested the FBI report analyzing all that cell phone data, saying that the records, that's what they're going to need, obviously, because we can see it's a big deal. Um, that if you watch Crime Talk with Scott Rice, she will tell you if you're on the defense, you want this trial as soon as possible. You don't want to give the state all this time to look at data and analyze things and reanalyze things and develop a theory. So that is what is happening there. All right. Our last case, is it 8? Are we up to 8? 8 is the Vallow case. And that is there's still stuff happening right this minute. Drink up, people. Oh my gosh, I'm almost out of my coffee. Perfect amount. 8 cases. So is Lori incompetent again, which is what we think? Will the cases be severed? This is the stuff we're all waiting on. Again, the fair trial, speedy trial, it's all getting jacked up with these cases being kept together, which they want to keep them together because they're co-conspirators and everything is related to each principal person alleged to be part of the crimes of killing. Let's see, it's JJ, Tylee Daybell, Lori's children, and Tammy Daybell. Those all occurred in Idaho. These are all Fremont County is the one prosecuting, but it's taking place in Ada County. And Judge Boyce is the presiding judge, and they're all going to move the trial. So now it's very confusing. We're going to hear more about, will the trial be put off? It seems like, I think that, yes, the continuance was agreed upon for Chad. So he wanted next fall. We don't know what's happening with Lori. Their cases are still joined together. Oh, hello, little kitty. But we'll see. So, the one case I didn't get to tell you guys about, let's see, did I cover everything? We all know now, right? The big takeaway this time was if someone talks about demons, getting too much into like end of the world stuff, culty, I hear things, someone is demonic, we need to do an exorcism, stop, call the authorities and get that person help and get anybody away from them, like little children, old children, any children. Get them the help they need. Give them, I think in California, is it a 50-50? Like you can have somebody involuntary committed. I mean, Charles Vallow really tried hard and somehow, I don't know, man, she got out of it. So that's my takeaway. Again, with the hands, I can't stop it. Oh, there was one last case and I will talk about it. We're not sure if it really is like a self big M, like the big S, but there was a girl from Ohio around the Cleveland area. She is an immigrant, but she's been here since an infant, tried really hard in school, got into Princeton, was at Princeton since I believe last summer, like took the summer classes, the fall classes, and right during fall break, she disappeared and nobody could find her. She was missing for a week. They found her behind tennis courts and they're saying, oh, it's the big S. Again, so her family, she was seen, I believe, at 3:00 in the morning. And then when the friend came back at 4 a.m., she was gone. She was found behind the tennis courts. I don't know. Them saying right away, oh, don't worry, community. Don't worry, Princeton. Don't worry about all the money you're spending to come to school here. It's so totally safe. I don't think it was the big S. I just don't, because she would have done it like again in her bed, in her room. Why go to tennis courts? Like and hide way far so that you can't be found in a week? It was fall break. The thing was, okay, just wait till everybody's gone and then, so that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We will follow up on that. All right. That is all of what I have to say. You guys have a great week. Please be safe. Have a great, if you celebrate it, Halloween. Be good. And I will see you for episode 34 next week. All right. Goodbye. Like and subscribe.